Call tonight's meeting of the North Highlands Recreation and Park Districts, the June 10th meeting. Second on the agenda is approval of last month's.
Minutes?
The minutes, what I said approval of the minutes.
I think I thought you did last month. I didn't hear the rest of.
Oh, we got first.
Did you motion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And we'll second.
Any other discussion? Chair?
All right. Do I have to still do this?
Yes.
Oh, man. Crystal Harden. Aye. Bo Rose.
Aye.
Max Seven.
Aye.
Chairperson Williams.
Aye.
Vote passed 4-0.
All right, chairpersons today. I got two. I got one question for Larry, and then I'll get to what I need to hit on. The positions you're hiring for here, can a board member sit in on it and just sit and listen, or is it just strictly?
We never had one, but there's one we can.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't set the date for the.
Not quite yet.
Yeah.
I was just when I was just going through, I just saw it here, board sitting in on
If
office assistant
as long as
position.
there's not more than two of it.
Right.
Sure, we can do
Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is we have it on our agenda under new business, under B, a resignation of a fellow board member. So I'll just put out there now, I am taking over his positions on the boards, budget, finance, and analyst or audit, and personnel and policy. So I will be taking over his spot there. I didn't have anything. I got a little bored over the weekend, so I started driving around looking at things. Yeah, I'm happy with everything that's going on with our district right now. So,
Question for the chair.
yeah.
Will you be appointing a vice chair?
Well, no, we already have. I'm just taking over where Alan was.
No, I think he's talking about that since Alan was the vice chair,
Oh,
that we would then need to appoint someone to fill the vice chair position. We'll have that on the July.
so that's a good question. But I didn't even think about that. Part.
Yeah, well, we couldn't put it on tonight because we had to get your approval of the.
Right. For the agenda. Understood.
For him to, for the resignation letter, so we will put that on the agenda for July.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll have to table that until next one. Any comments from other fellow board members? Ms. Crystal.
June, I'd like to acknowledge Pride Month and also gun violence awareness. Our community has been suffering a lot from the alarming increases of gun violence, shootings, homicides that are occurring in our neighborhoods and all throughout Sacramento. So just wanted to highlight those two things. And really interested in getting more youth programs. Super excited about summer programs, the park jam sessions and all that's to come. Really, really excited for what programs we have offered to our community members. So thank you.
Thank you.
Maxwell, anything?
Well, along that line, June is also a month where we celebrate Juneteenth. There are a lot of events happening around Sacramento and Sacramento County. I would encourage all folks, and there are a couple of events that kind of marry Pride and Juneteenth at the same time. Juneteenth is celebrated June 19th, and if you're not aware, it's when slaves in Texas found out 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation that they were free, and didn't realize that until the Union soldiers came in. So I think June is basically a month of liberation, whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's Juneteenth, or whether it's looking at being able to live in our neighborhood safe and sound without gun violence. So I think that's just a great way that I'm looking at June as liberation.
Thank you for that.
No, that's good. You good, man?
Mm-hmm.
All right, reports, the budget finance audit, we're just gonna pass on that because we have it on our, under new business. So then we'll start with the administrator report.
Yeah, we go with the recreation report.
Yeah, we'll start with Scott.
Sure.
Sure, not much to add to the report. I would like to thank Crystal, she stopped by and brought some goodies for the kids at distance learning on the final week. So we really appreciate that support. We did wrap up the school year, it was really sad to see the kids go, but as we said, we're lucky that they live across the street during the school year in the schools, and we can go over and visit them. So very, very rewarding school year. One that Rachel and I will never forget. We learned a lot, and we miss the kids already. So, but that's, other than that, any questions if there are any? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, the yearbook. So Kelly June, one of our staff members, he put together a yearbook of the distance learning program. So I gave one to each one of you. It kind of highlights each kid, the school year at a glance. Sorry, each kid and staff got it, and we spent several hours the last week doing traditional signatures and stuff like that. I think the whole goal of this program was to give the students a real feel of what they would get in school. So we had a yearbook signing session, and it was a lot of fun.
Very nice.
No, that was a good idea.
Yeah. Thank you.
I got questions.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm directed, my questions for Scott are no more, and now they come to you. I see here Janelle came by. So is there anything in particular she's looking for when she comes in? Or, I mean, we all know working for this, when work for the state, hey, so-and-so's coming in, here's what they're gonna be really looking for, let's tidy up and make sure that we are in compliance.
Absolutely. There's a 12-step quality assurance format that we follow that touch on things like getting students feedback, getting feedback from parents, enrichment, staff ratios, behavior management. I'm not going to hit them all, there's 12, but there's 12 standards that the grant that pays for the expanded learning program to run look for to assure that there's compliance within the rules and regulations, and that we're providing an enriching program for the students. So yes, and if you'd like a copy, I'm more than happy to provide that.
I'll swing in maybe one day next week.
For sure.
I'm not busy.
Yeah.
So, and my next question was, thank you for that, is congratulations on your staff for getting the kids to go from 60% to a 70%. Any increase is always good, but that goes to your and Rachel's input into it, and then the staff that you guys have working with those kids. I just wanted to make sure everybody, your staff knew that it was a good job.
Thank you. We'll share that with the staff.
Yes, ma'am?
Are you able to share a little bit about what the, under summer kids camp, the child action for the fee schedule and payments, what is that about?
Child action is something we accept as a state funding. And so we work with them to provide what our fee structure is, and we receive paperwork for students. It's all taken care of. We accept them into the program and receive payments from child action.
Nice, because it's full day and it's here. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. And how many of our students from the expanded learning program are able to go or are participating in summer camps?
From the expanded learning program, I don't think we have any registered right now. There might be. I'm looking to Rachel on the computer, but she's not going to be able to tell us. But there's a real question. So one at the moment, we do have a little bit of low enrollment, but we're hoping things pick up.
We'll continue to share and post and advertise. And I'm really grateful for you and your team highlighting what you're doing on social media. I was not invited to the party because they had music and games and pies in their faces. I mean, you can tell they were having a good time, both the staff and the students. So I am blown away and extremely grateful for the work that you all are doing and the impact on them. Because it's gonna last. They're gonna remember that and want to return to it. Thank you so much. Yeah. I've also shared, I see trustee Mike Baker like your posts and put hearts on like, so when are you gonna have them present at the district? So I hope I'm not overstepping, but I definitely think this is something that other trustees need to know that the park district is doing in their community with their students, and also the positives and increases that they had on student learning. And so thank you. Yeah.
Well, if I could add on that too, is something that Sarah and I have been talking about as the board is aware. The district received an award from NHRPD, which we will receive a week and a half from now. And we know that even though the award had our name on it, it was through a partnership with Twin Rivers School District. So we are going to replicate an award and have Twin Rivers name put on it. And then when the school board goes back into session, where they're doing live meetings as well, then we want to come there and present that to the board, because the program doesn't exist without Twin Rivers, and it doesn't exist without us. It's really meant a partnership. Unfortunately, when you put it for the award, it's actually coming from the district, but we want to acknowledge the fact that they were clearly an equal partner as well.
All right, we'll go to parks. Scott.
Well, outside of my written report, I do have one thing to add. At last month's board meeting, I mentioned that regarding the messaging board project, that we received preliminary approval from the design review aspect. And just a few days ago, we were informed that we have final approval from the planning department. So the project is fully permitted now, and we submitted the last payment on invoice, and we should. I'm still confident we'll have it in by June 30th. So we're excited to check that one off the list.
Scott, they're constructing that off-site, and we can bring it here and then install it, correct?
Yeah, they took the old one, kind of copied the dimensions. It'll look very similar in size, obviously much more updated technology, and they will just basically drop it in with the new enclosure on the bottom. And, yeah, so pretty straightforward project.
So we can shut down Wadat and like the county's doing with Highway 99, like we can just shut it down for a couple days.
With your approval.
We'll put
All
your name
through
on it.
that. I gotta go outside now and work on Tuesday. I didn't have anything for you, Scott. I was except a nice paint job. K Park. Yeah, I was there a couple times last week with my granddaughter's baseball team.
Yeah, that's a long overdue. You know, we have basketball courts in several parks, and they do get a lot of use. And we actually used the company that 3 or 4 years ago restriped this parking lot for us, and the parking lot at K Park. They also do the basketball courts, which was a little bit. Now that we've got a nice bright base, the staff can keep up with that. But we needed them to come in and kind of put fresh line.
Oh, looks good.
Yeah.
Looks good. Budget narrative, that would be you.
Yeah, real brief. You have a copy of the report. June is the last month of the fiscal year budget, excluding period 13. Which hopefully you understand what that is. It's just the transactions that take place between the end of June and when the final budget is approved in August. But everything's on track. We're underspending, and I believe all of our divisions, and even if one line item is more than it should be, there's more line items that are less. So overall, we expect to come in well under budget, and our revenues are still tracking above. Considering what we went through in the last year with having to cancel all our recreation programs and our rentals and all the stuff, to come out at the end of the year ahead in revenues I'm sure I'll sound like an old record, but it goes back to being able to put that distance learning program together. That made up all that lost revenue and then some. Yes, our regular programs and our regular building rentals, park rentals and stuff were non-existent this year. So we were very fortunate, but that didn't happen by accident. It happened because we have a lot of dedicated staff that put a lot of time and effort in trying to make some magic happen. And we weren't quite sure what things were going to look like. But going forward, we expect by the end of this month. And Terry, what's the cutoff date for expenditures? Is it 24th? 28th? 20th. So the 20th of June, we cut everything off at that point so we can finalize the end of the year budget. And those differences that happen after that will then show up later on in period 13. But that's all I have to ask, provide at this time.
All right, number 7, correspondence. Spoke briefly, Larry, I'll let you, you want to talk more on that? Or?
Sure. I've included some information in your agenda regarding the NHRPD Award of Distinction. As far as I can tell, I can't find any history of our district receiving an award from NHRPD. We've received different awards over the years, but I can't, and I think we've applied for 3 or 4 times since I've been here. I was told by somebody who was certainly known, I won't say his name, but they were very impressed with the submittal. And they reached, I had people reach out to me, still reaching out to me, congratulating us for getting an award. So we will pick that award up at the conference week after next in Monterey and bring it back and present that to the board and then place it in a very prominent place in our district office. And as I said before, make a copy for the district, Twin Rivers Unified School District, so they have one as well. But you know, I do want to point out that I don't know the total number of submissions, but I know that the last couple of years there's usually been 30 or 40 in every category. So even if it was half that many, and I don't know if there was or not, that's still quite an accomplishment. And again, I want to point back, it's not just certainly as Sarah and Rachel have everything to do with the success of this program, but I don't want to leave out our maintenance staff either, because every day before those kids showed up, our maintenance staff went into the community center, sanitized, cleaned, and got everything prepared so when the doors opened for the students to come in, it was a really nice setting for them to you know, to learn and further their education. And also too, there were a number of times that we had to make improvements to that building to meet fire codes and building codes. And they were very instrumental in making sure that those changes happen. And so sometimes, you know, our maintenance crews are kind of the unsung heroes. They're in and out before anybody usually gets here. Sarah and Rachel certainly know the value, and Scott does of what they do. But you know, it takes everyone to get working together to make these things happen. And I'm just happy. I can't wait to be up there when you know, little North Highlands Recreation Park District gets recognized. It's going to be kind of I've gone to these before, and it really is kind of a cool thing. And we'll make sure that those who aren't able to be there participate get a lot of videos and pictures.
Further.
I think Pat wanted to go, but Pat also had a conflict because it was just well-planned long-term vacation. But I believe in your report, I included what the award entails and what went into it, and what the options that the district could have submitted, not just a program, it could have been a maintenance program, those types of things. So we're feeling very good and very fortunate about it, and we'll have more to celebrate in a few weeks.
Right.
Yeah, it's outstanding. Like I said, when I heard when you're going to present it, I'm going, there's, I'll be in Las Vegas.
Can't blame you.
I can't. Well, don't want to do that. It's father-son trip, so. That'll be fun. All right. So I got my email today. We had no comments or reports from citizens. So then we'll move over to no unfinished business. We'll go to new business. And the California Special District Association, we have with us, I'll let you introduce it, right?
Sure, I met Dan Wadley, I don't know, like, how long have you been here?
Boy, I've been with CSDA for 6 years.
So shortly after I got here, I believe, and he is the public affairs field coordinator. I'll let him tell you more about what he does and why he's here this evening.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Larry, and thank you, board members, staff, community. Yeah, so Dave Wadley, I work with the California Special District Association. I'm basically our field representative for special districts and what we call our Sierra network, which includes you guys in Sacramento County as part of our Sierra network as it is. So the district's, of course, been a CSDA member for a while. Met with Larry on a couple of occasions just to give an update. I thought I'd come out and appreciate the opportunity just to address, the full board and staff and community as well, because one of the main things that CSDA does with the special district is kind of like NHRPD, but we're a little bigger, is the advocacy work, right? So we're an advocate for all types of special districts downtown in the capital. And one of the big things that we've been working on literally for the past, year, 14 months is this whole COVID, right? So I believe you have some information in your calculator that's been sent out to you before. So I'm not going to go through that whole document, so don't worry about that, but the highlights. But long story short is, as you're aware, right, special districts have been affected by COVID as well, right? Financially, we talked about the closing, the park rentals and the rental fee, et cetera, basically went away from COVID. And we've seen that across the state, park districts, and other districts too, as well, right? With fire, water, port districts, cemetery districts, et cetera. All these folks have had significant impacts related to COVID, like everybody else. The issue, though, is that there's been the various relief measures that have come out of DC, primarily the CARES Act and American Rescue Act, and some of the stuff that's been done through the state as well. But special districts have been kind of one of the few that's been left out of the cold, as we like to say, from some of these efforts. And so we, of course, at CSDA, and certainly working with NHRPD, are trying to change that in the legislature. And so we've been working on, we were working in DC originally, and now we transitioned to the state. So where we are today with the state budget process, so through the American Rescue Act, the state received approximately $36 billion, for COVID impacts. Our original ask was about $2 billion. That's been about the cumulative impact of special districts statewide since March, February of last year. And currently now in the state budget, at least in the legislature, on the legislative side, the Assembly and the Senate, there's $100 million in that budget for special districts specifically to address COVID impacts, revenue losses, new expenses that you guys have incurred related to COVID. So, obviously it doesn't address the full, the full $2 billion that I talked about, but we'll certainly take what we can get to help, our districts out. And particularly, as I mentioned, the parks and the fire is where we've seen a lot of the, kind of the big impact. Certainly for water districts too, they've probably in the past a little bit different. So where we stand, so we've got that money in the Assembly and the Senate, and frankly, we're kind of we're lobbying the governor's office, to put it that way, Department of Finance, to kind of get them on board, as it were, to kind of get this across the finish line, so it's in the final deal, and so this would have the availability, to access that money. So I guess that's a long way of saying that if anyone has a direct line with the governor, and tomorrow, it would be great, because the budget's literally going to be kind of finalized, or raised, we're going to have the final budget bill probably in print tomorrow, and if not tomorrow, certainly by Saturday. And they're going to be going on next week, and they have to get it approved by June 15th, the legislature, and then signed by June 30th. So it's, things are happening real quick. So I just wanted to really just kind of let you know, I don't have, we don't know where we're gonna kind of end up on. We'll know in a couple of days, but I'll certainly follow up with staff, let you guys know where we are. But just to highlight the fact, of course, that CSDA is, actively advocating on your behalf, has been for 14 months. We have this money that's, in the budget right now, at least that was agreed to by the Assembly and the Senate, and we're trying to kind of get that last step, which we're certainly hoping to do. So that's the update. We're, and we'll see. I can't really, I have my crystal ball. I wish I did. And predict the future, my life might be easier, but I can't. And so that's just really. So I just wanted to touch base with you guys, give you that information as to where we're at, and I'll be in touch very soon to provide you with what is in the budget.
So I got a question.
Sure.
That is going through, I meant to call Larry on it the other day, because I got my own note here. So is email worth it now since it's gonna be happening?
Frankly, yes.
You
I mean,
know,
I think it's just, we're, yes, because we're gonna fight to take this all the way to the end until it's not over until it's over, right?
Right.
As the saying goes. And so if there's anything that can be done with your representatives too, even just one more time, the special district people keep bugging me, let's get this done. So that they'll stop bugging me, that's fine too. Squeaky wheel, is helps, right? Okay, so anything, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, we've been working with Capri and CARPD,
Right.
in trying to, collectively put our what we believe our financial impacts are. So is that a separate route that is also going to, or is that going to you, or does that go also to the governor's office?
Yeah, my understanding is that, especially that both of the associations have been working with basically our lobbyists and providing a lot of information to help us, advocate. Because obviously, CSD is a little bit bigger, it's more staff than CARPD or free. And so we can kind of get to the lead on some of these things. But obviously, as they're the park experts, you guys are the park experts, getting that data has been helpful.
Last thing I was going to say is, I don't know the governor personally, but Mayor Steiger used to work for me as a recreation leader back in the Bay Area many years ago.
There we go. Well, and that's kind of one of the other things that we're our kind of parallel advocacy efforts, you're probably very locally too, because some of the park districts were talking to the county board of supervisors recently about providing services, because counties received money from the CARES Act as well as the city, and saying, hey, obviously we provide services in your community as well, and to share some of that money that they received for the special districts, and particularly parks districts. Rio Linda, had some challenges, Fulton, certainly as well. So yeah, it's kind of these parallel tracks are working with the state.
So, for the county board, have you been working this budget cycle with them for funds for special districts?
I know that some of the districts have a little bit. I've been kind of supporting them, and as they want me to help with that. I think if it kind of goes south on the state side, we've been focusing at CSDA on that, and then we'll probably transition more to trying to work with the counties.
Just so you know, Bo, is that last month, several of our administrators from the Sacramento area Recreation Park District actually had a chance to address the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors regarding this issue. We were very fortunate. They said that we had 10 minutes and they gave us 20. And they all expressed, concern that the special districts were hit as hard as they were, and no promises were made, but they certainly came across with their questions and their responses as being very supportive of it. Now, will that turn out to be equated to some dollars down the road? Because the counties also got money from it to deal with the COVID issue as well. I don't know, but like Dane says, there seems to be several tracks working on this. One directly to the governor's budget, because he's the one sitting there with all the purse strings. $37 billion, and we're not asking for, it seems like we're getting pennies on the dollar, or asking for pennies on the dollar. But my concern was simply is that initially it just seemed like the special districts were just totally bypassed. That either they didn't see the value of it, or we were so far down the pecking order that we just didn't register with them. But it sounds like we might be new.
The reason I ask is there's a groundswell at the community level. With last year, especially when the CARES Act came out, the community was very concerned, especially the unincorporated areas like us, about how that money was divvied up. And from that point, they passed a community survey for about 6 months. And one of the things that was identified is that the community wanted greater investment in park and recreation. And that can be shown. Not only that, it seems like these community groups are pretty well organized. And so that was the reason I was asking West County to track this cycle, because I think it's all, like we're sending emails and making phone calls, to have that community stand up and say, listen, it has been great that there was Sarah out there during COVID, that I had no idea what I was going to do with my kids, or now my kids are accustomed to getting outside and getting fresh air, whatever it may be. And it was under kind of quality of life. And I think we can get some very impassioned stories if that is needed. But anyway, I don't know what the next steps are, but it seems that there are several balls in the air trying to work towards the same goal, and I don't know if they're communicating or working together.
Yeah, and sorry if I just add to that point, so I was on that board of supervisors meeting, is the county staff had referenced that they were working with consultants. Basically, they wanted to do kind of like a strategic plan, a COVID strategic plan, spending plan, if you will, because they have a little bit more time to spend this money that came from the benefit until like 2024.
Yeah.
And half the money hasn't even gone to the counties yet. So they've got some more money coming in. So they wanted to, be a little more strategic about it. And the CARES Act, they just have to get out like immediately. They have a little short deadline. So I think that there is going to be some more opportunities to have those conversations with the county. We have gone that route, kind of a more focused route. So yes, I mean, we're certainly working, all the avenues that we can to, keep you guys in special districts on the forefront and get some of this really good out there.
Okay.
Well, I guess no one else I want to appreciate your time coming out here on the evening, sitting at home, having a nice dinner.
Happy to appreciate you guys, all your support. Like I said, we'll be in touch very soon. See where we're going.
Thank you much, sir.
Hopefully we smile.
That's right.
All right, thank you again. All right, B, board members resignation letter.
I'm so sorry. Board member, I'm so sorry. Is there a directive from our administrator about how you would want us to advocate, or is it we are confident about CSBA and all of the CRPD and all of them to do the work, and we as board members, we can just kind of.
Well, it's kind of like what Bo said, there's a lot of balls floating in the air here right now, balloons rather. We actually have been working on this already 6 weeks, 7 weeks ago. CARPD sent each district basically as a form to tell us how our districts were financially impacted. We broke it out as to money that was going towards the hand sanitizers, masks, gloves, all those things, including lost revenue and any additional costs. So we put that together, and I don't remember exactly what our dollar value is, because I'm still kind of up in the air, to be honest with you, because we can certainly demonstrate additional costs and additional financial losses, but we're one of the few, if not the only district that can say we backfilled it with the distance learning program. And so but the way the forms were set up were, they didn't really ask that question, did you find an alternative to those losses? It said just describe the losses. So we presented that to them, and those, the 12 special park and recreation districts in the Sacramento area, we asked two of our administrators to present to the county, and we took all that cumulative information and presented it. Now, as you see, there's some, the documents that Dane provided us, there's some kind of fill in the blanks and submit type of things. I don't know with the timeline of the governor passing his budget, even if it's effective, because right now they're already having the conversation at a much higher level. So I think the message is there, and we've done everything that's been asked of us. So I would say let's take a hold on that until I hear otherwise. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that maybe there'll be some information on this at the NHRPD conference in Monterey, that maybe this should be a discussion item. But I guess Crystal, let me get back to you, because we'll do anything they ask us to do. I just don't know if at this point, since where the budget is and it's at the governor's level, it's really, I think it's his decision if he's going to include it. I actually feel more confident in the county level, the local level, than I do the state level. They heard us, they understood us. They have, those districts are in Sacramento County, so we're in, and those supervisors. We're one of the few districts that have three. We overlap with 3 supervisors in our district, and we've made sure they all have heard that story. That hey, yeah, it was very difficult for us. So they seem very interested, and as Dane said, the county hasn't even received. I don't think it's 30% of all the money that they're going to receive. So we're hoping that. And it could be that the county's waiting to see what the state does. If the state backfills it, then they probably don't feel obligated to do it. But so yeah, there's so many moving pieces with this. I think we've done all the things that have been asked for us to do. I don't necessarily feel like I'm going to wait and see, but at the same time, I'm not quite sure. Dane would be the person we would go to hear more about what needs to be done on the state level. And or certainly our county board of supervisors, the ones we could directly contact, which when it comes down to them deciding how they're going to distribute the money they receive, all 3 of them already know what our situation is. They know what all the 12 situation is. And I think that's where we can hammer a little bit harder there to make sure don't forget us. Again, for our own special, for our district, I don't know if we're going to get anything out of it, but I think we should be advocates for all special districts. To be honest with you. And if we do, I think it all depends on how they look at this. If they ask us, did you make up for what you lost? We're going to look pretty good. But we certainly did have to incur a lot of other expenses that we normally do not.
And I did hear all the county board of supervisors meeting today. Supervisor Desmond spoke about North Highlands with Christian Park District and youth programming and really advocating for this stuff. It's looking promising. We'll see.
He's definitely is the one who actually is the one supervisor, and I'm just putting it out there, that I can call when I talk to, or he calls me. I don't have to go through staff liaisons and all this other stuff. And that was something when I talked to him before his election, when he got elected, he told me that's exactly how he wanted to do things. And it's been a brief period of time, but I've been impressed so far, because we've had a board of supervisors who we've invited to come to our board meetings here, and it always seems like they got something else going on. But Desmond has said when we're ready to have him come, to let him know. I got a feeling he'll be here.
Yeah, he came to an event.
Yes, that's where I met.
And we both talked to him, and I was like,
yeah. Back to me then, resignation of Alan. Larry, do you want to?
We received we all received a copy. We received a letter of resignation from Alan. We're certainly going to miss him, and certainly he has a wealth of knowledge that collectively all of us probably don't have about this district. Like he said, he's been there for almost 25 years, plus I think another 10 years on the swim team board, which was it is part of our district. But certainly, you can't call somebody who served 25 years. I do want to let the board know that I think that as we come back out of, back to normal, whatever normal is.
New normal.
And I know that, I don't think Alan has moved yet, but I know his plans is one of our other former board members is actually moving out of the area as well. I think it would be appropriate to invite them to come to a board meeting and present them with a plaque showing our appreciation for the years of service that they provided. And if they're not here, then we will make sure they get it, but I think that's something special if somebody serves that long. I think we should do something like that. Because, that's, as you know, there's not a lot of money in being on the board here, so it's certainly something that somebody does in the heart.
It's funny you say that, because I wrote that down here, because when, after the election, when we lost Diane, another one of those that's had years on this board. But yeah, just when I got that email from Alan, I'll be honest, I was devastated. There was, and the reason why is I've come to board meetings as a parent. I've sat here and I've listened because one, I ran a party or baseball league a long time ago. And, but then when I got interviewed for this, and looking up at Alan, I knew Alan and Diane, they're like stoneheads. They've been around for ages. They know everything. And, that's why I was hoping Alan would stick around to help me, because now, besides my 3 board members, it's just me and theirs. I just told Larry the other day, 3 years here and I'm still learning stuff. I'm still, because there's stuff that he goes, oh, well, it's okay. But that's what Alan was for. Because Alan, just him, boom, yeah. I mean, that one hurt me. I mean, it was, it crushed me, and I told him, because I talked to him. It's just, that was a tough one for me.
But it's probably good for Alan.
Oh, no, there's no doubt. Families first.
It opens up opportunities for somebody else.
Right, families first anyways. We always said he'd be a state worker, family first, but I just wanted some more needs and wing and.
Terry, did the board have to vote on accepting the letter, or?
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yes. So I think we should go ahead and vote if the board would, to make a motion in a second.
So we need a motion in a second.
Yeah, to accept his resignation letter.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
The piece about our administrator's recommendation, is that something separate to acknowledge and, an award or something for them? Is that
No, that'd
separate?
be something.
Oh,
Yes,
it doesn't
okay.
have to be voted on, right?
Right, no.
Cool. No further
Good.
discussion.
Wow, slow down, Turbo.
Bo Rose.
Aye.
Max Herman.
Aye.
Pat Booth.
Aye.
Chairperson Myers.
Yeah, that's better. Ooh, recognize the girlfriend.
The motion passed 4-0.
All right, C, resolution 601, approval of the 2021-2022 fiscal preliminary budget.
You want me to start, or you want to start?
I'll let you start.
Okay. Again, just a reminder for the board, and you've probably read it and heard it too many times already, but I'll say it one more time. Special districts approved 2 budgets. The preliminary one is exactly what it says, is a preliminary budget. Once that budget is put together, and it's not as detailed as the final budget will be, and the reason is the numbers will slightly move around, usually to our benefit. They have since I've been here, that revenues will increase during what we call period 13, that time period between the end of beginning of July and when the budget is finalized in August. So the preliminary budget is exactly what it is, but it allows us effective July 1st to begin to start spending money out of the new budget. Then you'll come back in August at your regular August meeting, and you'll have the final budget, and we will then discuss any changes that occurred and provide you with any additional documents for the budget. So with the preliminary budget, we have a budget finance and audit committee, which was Alan and Crystal, and Alan left. And what has been past precedence is when we had an opening like that, the chair would step in to whatever role the person left. And that's what Pat said earlier this evening. So the committee met, and then we met a second time because Crystal was unable to make the first meeting, but we met a second time. So between Pat and I and Crystal, and spent probably over an hour going through the budget. And unless I heard otherwise, I sensed support from from Pat and Crystal for the budget. But I'll turn that back over to Pat and Crystal and let them make any comments they want to make. And then if you want, I just want to spend about 5 or 6 minutes and touch some highlights in the budget and answer any questions the board has.
Crystal?
You're just fiscally responsible. I'm impressed with how you manage the budget and funds and money, so
You're good? All right, I'll first start off by saying, Larry, that your staff did a phenomenal job on preparing it. Going through it, I didn't have many questions. I saw pluses in there because this is learning program that generated money. Our passports, we've reduced rent, still made us money. We didn't make 100%, but I'd rather have 80% of something than nothing. So, but your staff going through this, it was a phenomenal job. The numbers, there was only a few simple things that, I wasn't even sure of. But I thought overall, I mean, I didn't see anything out of whack. I didn't see anything for any personal, but that's what I loved about Alan. Alan can look at these numbers. Hey, that's right. Oh, that's right. I'm still learning the bean counter, as they call it. But I liked in there that the projects are set up in there. Barring Prop 68, which we have Prop 68, then it's going to oversee everything, since that's on a time limit. But I like seeing our park district with money. We're going to have a better year than 2020, and that's all that I could hope for. So I have nothing else on that.
So if I could, if I can get, this is a few things I want to touch on are all found on 2 pages. And you should have a cover letter to the budget. I'd like to go to page 2, and it's under the top heading, noteworthy budget changes for 21-22. And I'm just going to quickly go through those so you can see what's been included in the budget. Last year, the employees did not see a pay increase, what we call a COLA, a cost of living adjustment. And honestly, that was not what it wasn't. It wasn't that it wasn't deserved. It's simply that we did not know financially where our district was going to be. So our recommendation is to have the employees get a 3% cost of living adjustment effective July 1st. The district is in the process of filling the office assistant position. We're in. How many applications do we have, sir?
270 some and counting.
I don't have glasses.
So we have, our deadline is the June 21st, we have nearly 300 applications. What happened about all these?
Forget about me coming in there.
But anyway, so that position used to be housed in the administration budget, but because after 5 or 6 years of having that position, we really understood that it aligns closely more with the recreation division. So from just an administrative move, we took it out of the administration budget and put it into the recreation budget, and the salary and the benefits reflect that. Part-time employees will receive a salary adjustment, a minimum wage adjustment to $15 an hour, and that goes into effect January 1st. To put things in perspective, 5 years ago, our minimum wage was $10. So yes, I know 15 isn't a lot of money, but that's when we used to give minimum wage increases of 25 cents.
Right.
This is certainly significant, but it's not certainly a living wage either. Typically what we do is to make sure we don't lose ground when we make adjustments to salaries and adjustments, we also have to come back at some point and make adjustments to program costs and rentals and those kinds of things. But we try to keep those down to a minimum. You may have heard me mention before that the general fund made a $40,000 loan to the Community Facilities District, Alberta Park. And that was because when we created that park 2.5 years ago, the county failed to tell us about something called dry financing, which is a strange term, since really what it is, by entering into agreement with the county, because our money comes in basically twice a year. It's just like.
No.
Probably impacting the camera.
Oh, so it's just like property tax. We get the money doesn't come in on a monthly basis. So there are times where we are, and this is districts, counties, and cities as well. You're cash poor, and so the dry financing backfills that until you collect your money, then it repays it back again. The district has been in this dry financing for 30, 40 years, and I don't think it's ever had to use it, but we had to use it, and we didn't have the money. And so the County Board of Supervisors granted us a mid-year dry financing agreement. And the agreement was that towards the end of the year, when we got our second payment, we would repay it back, and we have done so. And we still have now we have a positive cash flow in that account. The district anticipates a carryover fund. I put $308,500. That's our estimate, but I can tell you that based on past years, that number will be greater. So the carryover is a combination of two things. It's a combination of excess revenues that you were not expected to generate, as well as spending less money than you were budgeted. So if Scott's budget is, say, $1 million, but he only spent 900, that extra 100,000 gets put into what we call the carryover account, and then carries over into the next fiscal year. It just gets pushed forward. Likewise, if recreation generated 50,000 more than it had budgeted for, that excess revenue gets put into the carryover account and pushed forward into next year. So based on underspending budgets and additional revenues, our initial estimate is a little over 300,000. I would not be surprised if it's not closer to 400,000 when period 13 is completed. The district anticipates developer impact fees to exceed $1.2 million. These are what we call restrictive funds. That means they can only be used for a very specific purpose. I can't pay Scott's salary from that, but I can put a playground or apply part of that cost from that account to build a new playground or build a new park. That's maybe the most amount we've had in that account since I've been here, but I will say that if the Lakes at Antelope project, which is across the street from the proposed Cedar Creek Park project, if that breaks around like I anticipate it will soon, that's another $3.5 million when that's completed. So good news there. The district anticipates its annual reserve account, which is in layman's terms, it's a savings account, to be approximately $975,000. It's actually a little bit more than that because we fund the contingency fund out of that amount, but so it's that 150,000 contingency is found in our budget. So you need to add that to what the account reserve is, and we actually have about $1.2 million as well in reserves. Very, very high. There were times when we were around the $300,000 mark. So we've been able to build up our reserves for in case of unforeseen emergencies. But at some point, we're going to have to start looking at spending it. Thank you. You got it. The district anticipates hearing from the state parks regarding the Prop 68 grant application. They told us from day one that the applicant, because of I think it was over 500 applications. So they've got to score them all and rank them all and do all this, but they told us that it would be done by this summer. So does that mean next week or does that mean the last week of August? I have no idea. But as Scott can attest, because he's working on part of this as well for the per capita, the state has found itself 3 to 6 months kind of behind because they never anticipated the volume of interest. They say this is going to be done by the summer. As soon as I hear, you will know about it immediately. And let's keep our fingers crossed because we're seeking a $2.8 million grant. I mentioned before about the length of the antelope and what that can generate to the district. And as I previously mentioned to you, 4 years ago, we did not have a community facilities district, a CFD, but we actually have two now. The one for the Alberta Park, which is Cherry Blossom Park, and all the landscaping and the park maintenance. But we set one up also in advance of the groundbreaking for Lakes of Antelope. So when Lakes of Antelope starts to develop, we've already done all our work. All our work has been done well in advance, and all the numbers that are in place of what they are going to have to pay the district, which get adjusted by inflation every year. So if they pull 100 permits this year, the next 100 permits next year is going to be at a higher rate. So those are some things I wanted to key on. And under revenues, I mentioned to you that our projection right now is about 60 something thousand plus and unanticipated revenue. I think that's probably going to get a little over 100,000 by the time we get through period 13. And you know, I don't know how, maybe I'm sure you guys are much smarter than I am about this stuff, but I've learned a lot in recent years about property tax. You know, I used to always think there was just one line item, we get property tax. It's like 20 line items,
Right.
but there's one. That's the major one. It's called secured property tax. That's the one that you write your check out, you know, twice a year to pay your taxes. I just want to leave you with this. Generally, whatever we get this year is based on what occurred a year ago, because they have to evaluate the value of the house, which is what the property tax is based on. So this year was a huge increase for us. You all are paying attention to what's going on in the housing market, especially in Sacramento. I read the other day, it was number 3 out of the entire country for inflation for homes, or increased value of homes. That's good if you got a home. If you don't have a home, it's not good. But I anticipate that next year, because what we're doing this year, what's going on this year will be reflected in next year's budget. I suspect it's going to probably be the largest amount we've ever received. Because if you have a house and a year ago it was valued at $400,000 and now it's valued at $600,000, that's a third increase. And that would be coming, because as you know, we don't receive sales tax. We receive property tax and the supplemental little small property taxes that go with it. So I just wanted to share that with you, because it is interesting, because I came from city government where we don't receive any property tax, but we get all the sales tax, or most of the sales tax. And lastly, on the back page, we talked about what the distance learning program generated, about $180,000 in revenue. That offset the $125,000 we had budgeted for recreation programs. Lease property, we had actually, the year before, we had generated close to about $115,000 in lease revenue. But because of COVID, we dropped that down to 100. And then, as you know, we had several of our leases come back and ask the people who had a lease asked for some assistance from the district, and the district granted that. Yet we still came close to actually meeting the budgeted number. I anticipate that's going to go back up to the 123,000+ next year, because those are all set by contract. And I don't know if we shared this with you, but remember, if you weren't here, maybe we told you that the softball lease had come back and they had made a significant request. Well, their fortunes turned around rather quickly, and even though they were not obligated to begin paying their full amount until when, Jerry? June, they actually started paying the full amount back early. So that tells you a lot about who they are, because legally they didn't have to do that, and they did that anyway, and that's highly appreciated. Next year, after July 1st, we expect, I expect certainly that revenues are going to be greater than they were this year. And this is assuming that we don't have a relapse with COVID, and I want to think positive, not negative. And I believe that our expenditures are in line. And I'll leave you with this. Every year, if you factor in any increases for salaries for employees, minimum wage for part-time employees, those things trigger workman's compensation increases, insurance increases. And then Terry, what do we budget about 10% annually for medical increases?
Yes.
And then we got dental, vision, life, and all these other things. And then you just look at what we pay Capri, and that's money well worth that we spend on that. Technically, we probably see about $60,000 to $75,000 in increased cost every year just on those things. So we have to make sure that our revenues are equal or greater than that, so we don't start falling back. So it's up to you. I provided a lot of detail for you about the budget, and I provided you a description of what those expenditures generally go for. I didn't get into a lot of depth. And then in the back, Terry has provided an attachment which provides you with a history of expenditures and revenues that I think cover 3 years. So you can see the changes each year from those different expenditures and revenues. But that is basically it. When you see the final budget, you will see the reflection in the expenditures and revenues based on period 13. Recreation programs will be broken out, so you will see what they cost, what we expect to bring in, and what the bottom line looks like, and Sarah will describe more of what the expenses go towards. But that's kind of it, and if you have any specific questions, either myself or Pat or Crystal could try to respond to them.
I got a question. I need you to refresh me real quick on that park dedication fund, and we were gonna come to the final budget where that's gonna be gone. We're gonna
We have
absorb it into somewhere, correct?
Yeah, we have a small amount, and I gotta pull it up.
14,037.
Yeah, it's like $14,000 we've had sit in this account, and the best I can tell, it was a revenue account that we collected, and sometimes it stopped, or it merged into the developer impact fees, because other than interest, I haven't seen a change in 8 years in that account. Have you, Terry?
You get up to about $20 here.
Yeah, I mean, it's very minor. So I think what we'd like to do is spend that down this year, and we could apply that towards one of the projects. So I would say, let's wait to see if we have any maybe potential cost overruns in any of the projects we do, then we can offset it by depleting that account. Because it's not like the regular developer impact fee that as permits are pulled by the developer from the county, we get paid. And just in case you're wondering, and this is going to be presented to you at next month's meeting, the developer impact fees, the county sets the fees, and they do it in 10-year cycles. The 10-year cycle ended last year, and so for the last year, we've been working with SCI, who is all the districts contracted with, and Sacramento County, to develop what the fees are going to look like for the next 10 years. Now, they'll tell you what this year's are going to look like, and then they'll apply a cost of living factor to it. And this includes single-family dwellings, apartment complexes, mobile homes, those types of things. But our district had the same, and I don't know what the reason was behind it. I'm going to find out. Our district had the biggest jump from developer impact fees for single dwellings than any other district. I think we went up nearly $2,000. So to put it in perspective, if the Lakes at Antelope project is going to build 80 homes, let's round it off. Just by that change is 2,000 times 283. That's how much, and again, it goes up because they're not pulling all those permits in 1 year. They're going to gradually pull those up probably over a 3 or 4 year period. So again, I don't mean to boggle you down with all this detail, because I'm a numbers guy. I find this stuff really interesting. I don't think my stuff, I'm sure that as well as I do. But, the answer to your question is, yeah, I'd like to spend that down, but I think I'd like to hold it back and wait to see if you need it specifically for something.
I had a note there, and that's what I wanted you to refresh, so.
Is it restricted, or does it have to?
No, that is not, that money is not restricted like developer impact fees are restricted. I will probably do a little research on it to make sure. I'd like to know exactly where it came from, but it's been sitting there for a very long time. But we'll find out and come back to the board and share it with you.
All right, so then what I need is I need someone to make a motion for resolution 601.
Make a motion, I make a motion.
I'll second.
I'm just sorry.
Well, no, I was thinking, do we have to put on that motion to accept resolution 601, do we have to put the amount of $2,406,205?
You have to call it out.
So make a motion and put the final,
I make a motion to approve resolution number 601 for the amount of $2,406,205.
I'll second.
Chairperson, Hardy? Aye. Chairperson, Reynolds?
Yes. I'm sorry.
It's all right, it's the same word.
Yeah.
Chairperson Simmons?
Aye.
Chairperson,
aye.
Williams?
We'll have a talk.
I just call her a chairperson, isn't that?
Well, we all got the
There you
minutes.
go.
Yeah, yeah.
The motion passed 4-0.
Okay.
All right, now we go to resolution 602, approval of the 2021-2022 fiscal year North Island Recreation Park District facility for Alberta Park or Cherry Blossom. So that's,
This one is a lot simpler than the general fund budget. You've heard us say, you've all seen the Alberta Park. It's our newest development. In fact, it's probably our only development in the last 20-something years in the community. But we have 225 homes that over the last 4 years have permits pulled, and they're all built, or the developers keep the last few lots for their trailers and their, for storage, and then they convert those into homes after they're done. So all 225 have been sold. If there's a few that's still under construction, we've already collected the fees from that. So this is a maintenance contract. This has to be used for maintenance, specifically for maintenance of the landscaping and the park found within Alberta Park. You'll hear us sometimes use Cherry Blossom Park because that's the park, but it's actually all the landscaping inside and around the perimeter and the entryway into the development. Those fees we collect, and then we use those fees to provide maintenance to the district. As you can, or to the development, as you can imagine, that being a small budget like this, we can't afford to go and buy a fleet of trucks and mowers and those type of things, or just employees who do nothing but work in that park. It's just too small. So what we do is we charge back to the general fund. We provide the staffing to maintain it. We use the district's vehicles, the district's mowers, district's equipment, and then we charge back for that. And the district and the development pays back the general fund. So what we generate off this program, and I won't get into the dry period financing, I already discussed that with you in the last budget. As you can see, the 225 parcels are charged a total of, right there, $541.74. That is a 2% increase. We tie the annual increase into the Bay Area cost of living index. And this is all done for us by SCI, who we contract with. They prepare all the revenue information. We prepare all the expenditures. So the district anticipates collecting approximately $122,000 in revenue from the special tax. And that special tax is $541.74, increase of $12.18 over the previous year. And we also generate interest income of $346 on that amount. And so you can see our revenue projections, and these projections are 100% accurate because this is what we have to collect, is $147,063. And you can see our expenditures are quite a bit less, 102,471, leaving a balance of 44,592. That 44,592 becomes a contingency reserve fund. One of the requirements when we created the CFD was so to take the burden, the financial burden away from the general fund of say 10, 12 years down the road, the board decides you want to replace all the playground equipment and the shade structures at the park. Instead of the general fund having to come in and fund that replacement cost, we're self-funding. So we are going to keep back every year a certain amount from the budget. So we create a reserve that when we need to replace that equipment, or didn't we, I think we talked a little bit about the restrooms there, about the neighbors may not want restrooms, the people who use it may want restrooms. If we had to build a restroom, it would come out of that account. So the whole idea is to self-fund. So that way the general fund doesn't have to pay anything, or if they pay anything, it'd be a very minor amount. Because generally playground equipment and the shade structures and stuff have a life expectancy now of 10 to 12 years. So if we can save 30,000 a year, we will probably have enough to replace just about everything. Cool. So that is the budget. It's very similar to the general fund, except it's very exclusive. And the answer to you, if you have questions about this, the answer is yes. Those people who live there pay twice. They're paying their property taxes, which support the district, and they're also paying this, which is essentially a Melrose tax. If you're not, I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a very specific tax that has a very specific purpose. And when people buy the homes, they agree to do that. So, you know, that's, I guess, the burden of living there, but that, yes, they do pay twice.
That's what I tell my daughter, that's why you get a newer house than I got, you know? She lives right down the street from Cherry.
And when they go ahead and build out the Lakes and Antelope, same thing. Same thing. So if you have any questions about this budget, it's just a smaller version of the general fund budget, and I probably didn't do justice to explain to you about the chargebacks to the general fund, but essentially, whatever it can afford to do on its own, we charge back to the district. We assign the salary of a maintenance worker there, but not the full salary. But it doesn't mean that maintenance worker is the only one working in there. We could have a supervisor in there, but that's what we charge for that service.
That was going to be my question. Were we hiring new staff? You just answered. This is part of the time worked by more than one employee in that area.
Correct.
Okay.
So, yeah, so if we have a staff of 5 or 6 maintenance workers and whatever part-time staff, they could be working in our general fund part, one part of the day, and then go over there. But we have it set up in the budget to charge back for that time that they spend in that department.
Understood.
Very, very typical what you'll find in a lot of situations where you have CFTs or landscape and lighting districts, which are very simple.
All right, so I need a motion for resolution 602 with an amount.
I move to approve, and accept the budget as proposed by the district, 147,163.
Second, somebody?
Second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Perry?
Board Member Hardy.
Aye.
I got it right this time.
Yeah.
Board Member Reynolds.
Aye.
Board Member Senior.
Aye.
Chairperson Williams.
Aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
All right, next one is payment of the bills. I got 2 questions. Of course I do, you know I do. Well, I think they're gonna go to Scott anyways, but the 2211, the construction equipment service for a tractor.
Yeah.
You know, one of our tractors, right, we got the grass cutter tractor.
No, the John Deere, we use it for aerating and for
Oh, okay.
projects like that. I believe it was a hydraulic issue, so we take it back to John Deere and they just.
Oh, no, that one was.
That's the first time we've had to put any repairs into that for at least the last 3 or 4 years.
Nothing Sean could fix. Sean fixes everything. Next one I got is Matto Construction, the Sierra Creek fire control?
We, I think I might have mentioned that in last month's report. We contract out to have an individual go in there with his big John Deere and a disking machine to take all the grass down here. It's weed abatement.
Okay, well, well, how does that, okay, yeah.
No weed,
I was
no
saying
fire.
fire control, I'm thinking like fire extinguishers and, so, okay, yeah, no.
That's an annual thing we do at that
Oh,
one
okay.
specifically, so. That hillside is pretty rough.
That's all I got, so we just need first and a second. Got a motion and a second, any further discussion?
The second.
I'll second. Thank you.
Oh, I thought I heard Ken over here.
No, I just see fears pointing out.
Oh.
And I'm just watching. Board member Jihadi. Board member Reynolds.
Aye.
Board member Sinihala. Board chairperson Williams.
Aye.
Both, building reports have passed with 4-0.
All right, tonight's meeting's adjourned. The next regular meeting of Board of Directors be July 8, 2021, 6:30 here, free of masks and everything at home.